Hey y'all, we are back for a live. Today we are talking Carolina rig, and today we got Big John back for more Carolina rig talk because, well, he's kind of good at it.
I do love Carolina rigging. That's
Definitely.
for sure. Love it.
So, where do we start with all this?
Well, we could start with why I started Carolina rigging, and I don't do a traditional Carolina rig. I call it more of a finesse Carolina rig. Traditional's half ounce, 3/4 ounce, big heavy weight, glass beads and all that. I use spinning rods, mostly 10-pound test line, 3/16. I don't know if you can see that little weight.
Some call it a mojo weight.
Little mojo weight. And I rig it up with a 1 to 2 aught hook, and 98% of the time I am fishing with a straight tail worm. So just like I say, very finessey. And what happened with me back in the day when split shotting got popular, to me it didn't make sense crimping a weight on your line. It just seemed like it was creating a weak spot. And so I just, watching Carolina rigging through Bassmasters and stuff, I thought, why can't I do that but scale it back to more like a finesse technique? And it worked so well, I still do it today. It's a great way to catch fish, cover ground on like if you're dragging flats, dragging around docks. It's obviously not great for like getting it up under docks and stuff. It's not very easy or good. Or if it's real rocky, you're going to donate some tackle. But one of my favorite places to do it is, springtime, Berryessa, East Side Flats, where you're out 4 to 15, just dragging out there in the flats. And it's very effective.
Just floating around, letting the wind kind of blow you around.
Or the trolling motor, just scooting it. And I run a longer leader, maybe 24 to 28 inch leader. And the key too is, what I do is I pre-tie all my leaders before I go, because I think that's one of the headaches, is people don't like taking the time to tie that leader. So I pre-tie all my leaders, and I put two.
Gets closer on.
Yeah. So what I do is I pre-tie 6 to 8, if you can see that, 6 to 8 leaders pre-tied. I just wrap them in the foil, and that way it's simple. You're only having to tie one knot to get back, in the game. You don't have to retie everything, digging out line. And it's just simple, and I keep them in a little simple box, with foil packs. And it's an easy way to be preset the Carolina rig.
Nice. I do all my tying on the water, but there is so I tie like Palomar knot on all my stuff.
That's all.
And there is an exact process of what to tie first. Like you tie your leader, and then you tie your leader onto your line.
Yeah.
And it's basically doing the same thing, just you have it like, I have to remember not to tie things at different times.
Well, you know what? And the Palomar knot is my favorite knot, but I'll cheat on when I'm tying my leader. I don't even know the name of the knot. I was taught a knot from the old commercial fishing days. It's just wraps, go through, wrap 5-6 times, do the bottom hole loop, do the top loop, and that has never failed.
It's a
cinch knot.
And it is a good knot there is. It has never failed me.
That is one of the main knots that I tie typically.
Yeah. So that's how I get away, because trying to tie, like you say, the Palomar with the leader is a headache, because you're trying to drop the hook, the whole leader down, and get it through. I used to try to do that, and it's pain. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So I tie that knot and it works just fine.
So
yeah, there's
but
the
this-
one thing with Palomar is either the waist or you have to push the line all back through the loop.
Yeah.
So you have less waste if you are trying to retie a knot or something like
Yeah,
that.
and like I said, being pre-tied, and I put 2 liters per little foil pack, and it just makes it simple. You're just tying one knot, pull one out, unwind it, slide a new weight on, one knot, and you're back in the game.
So for me, when I learned how to do it, I didn't tie a swivel on there, right? Like I put a bullet weight on there, kind of like my dad taught me. I put a bullet weight on there. I slid it up. I had a whole thing in my box of toothpicks.
Yeah, pegged it.
And then so I was able to adjust
Yeah,
what I wanted
Yeah.
for my.
yeah.
But for a while there, that was before drop shot. Carolina rigging
Carolina rigging
absolutely.
and split shotting
was the thing, right?
that
Like,
was what everybody was doing. That
And-
was the finesse of all of it.
and if you brought a kid out, you gave him a Carolina rig, and
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, my partner at the time, Randy, he was the big drop shot guy, and drop shot,
Split shot.
split shot, and I watched him break off more than one fish right at where the weight was crimped on the line. And like I said, it didn't take me long to transfer over to the Carolina rig just because of that.
right.
Yeah, see, my dad would he would crimp it on there.
Hi,
Same
Brian.
Oh, Brian Stacy, who should be watching the live right now,
Yeah,
but
Brian.
apparently he's not.
You should message him back and say, "Hey, we're live right now,"
Yeah, were you?
or just answer it. "Hey, we're live, guy. Why aren't you watching us?"
But he would crimp that on there and he'd actually leave it loose so that when he got hung up, it would slide all the way down to the hook and then he could pop the whole thing out. And he says that's how he would run it. I don't know. And then he would start putting double split shots on there, to weigh it down and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But now,
That's basically the same technique.
yeah,
though.
and now they have they have that rubber, almost like a rubber toothpick. I don't even want to call them
Right.
the stoppers. That
The bobber
and
stoppers.
so they're not even bobber stoppers. They're actually
Like a little piece of rubber that acts like the toothpick. where it
like the
goes
toothpick.
inside
So
the
you're
hole.
not, because in reality the toothpick, because we used to do that too, could damage
The line.
the line where the rubber things will not. The bobber stops are cool, but they don't quite hold it as good as the old, something
Yeah,
that
they
you could really
will.
wedge in there. They'll move quite a bit, but they do work.
So,
Yeah.
so my question to you is, why did you go with that type of weight instead of like a regular bullet weight?
I used to use the regular bullet weights, and then when the Mojo weights came out, it was more, I don't know, more of a visual, thinking this would pull through the weeds better. I thought it would come through even the rocks better, and I could be totally wrong on that. But for me, it just seemed like it would get through more stuff. And
So you're saying you're more confident
yeah,
Yeah.
in that.
yeah, more confident in this weight, not hanging up.
One of my things that I don't like about bullet weights is the end will like smash in.
Yeah.
And you can actually kink your line
Yeah.
when that end smash ins. I did run the Mojo style for a little while, and that Mojo style, I feel like when you got hung up, you were like hung.
Yeah.
I couldn't get them out, but I did get hung up less. But I'm also that was back when I wasn't as finessey and I just yanked on everything.
You're getting
So-
really finessey lately. More.
That's
Ned
what happened.
rig
Well, it's because we've been in the
I
Delta.
I caught one Ned rig fish this year, so I'm officially switched over to the Neds or to the finesse side.
You know what's interesting too is I saw a tip on the Carolina rig from a pro, and let me see that weight. And what he suggested was on the Carolina rig running the regular bullet. I don't know if you can see it. Just the regular old school bullet weights, but put it on backwards. He said that having the big end up would not hang up in the rocks as bad, because the point end was just like it would just go in the wedge, would wedge in. So he was putting his bullet weights backwards, and he
So,
says
like-
it would like hit the rock but then climb it.
Hmm.
So I haven't tried it yet. I have not, but it sounded like a decent idea to something we're trying.
Yeah, and then
Something that would have
I've
like
never
a little
heard-
lip to
yeah,
pop it up. And
Exactly, and
over,
I have never
provide
heard,
leverage.
I've never heard that ever in my life, that tip. And it was just earlier this year or into last year, I heard it on one of our Western pros. And I thought, you know what, that might work. You know,
I mean, it's worth a try.
sure,
I
absolutely.
like the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
And it's just such a great finesse techniques. And you can throw, the one thing I like about it too is you can use any plastics, right? You can go, I have pre-tied rigs 4 and 5/0 for throwing creature baits, big Cincos. I'll Carolina rig the big flipping tubes. I'll pack a tube with, I'm giving away a good secret here, folks. Take a Gets It or a big, any size. I used to do most of it the small ones. Take packing foam. They're like the old peanut foam. It's sort of a hassle. Pre-pack your Gets Its, Texas rig them, Carolina rig them, and they float. And when you when you move it, it pulls it down, and then it just floats back up. And that thing is just doing this, and it's pretty deadly.
I've seen that same
Yeah.
style of theory with the Strike King makes a floating worm or something like that, and that was that same kind of thing where,
like
and
a trick worm.
especially when they like went through brush, it would like stay up and then it would fall, but it would never go down all the way. Like the brush or the weight would hit the bottom, and then that worm would always stay up suspended.
Yeah.
And then if you shook it, it would just like dance that worm
Yeah.
suspended straight up and down. And I think it was like Fish the Moment video or something like that.
Yeah.
They're from years ago, back when I used to watch them.
I don't do that technique enough. I should get back to it because I had a few year stretch where, of all lakes, one of the best was actually Comanche.
I was
The
just gonna
spotted
say
Comanche was one of the lakes that worked. So we're heading there in a
I
couple
was-
months. I might have to try it.
Right
Since
when you said
I don't
that,
know how to catch fish there.
Right when you said that, the first thing I thought of was actually
Yeah,
Comanche
yeah.
in the fall time.
Yep.
Yeah.
They definitely.
Yeah. This
I've tried to figure out. They have a technique where you can take like that. Basically, you're Carolina rigging a small crankbait, and
This ain't the greatest one, but this is
I've
almost
tried
like
that.
almost like a blue. I don't have a true bluegill Gets It, but the small Gets Its are very effective on a Carolina rig, you know. And you don't have to pack them with the foam. That's just a different thing. But it's just a cool little bait that not a lot of people throw anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
So what size weight are you typically running when you're tying up your Carolina rigs?
3/16 to a quarter is my heaviest. So
Quarter's the heaviest.
quarter is my heaviest. 3/16 is my sort of my go-to. I want it just, I don't know, I like that light. Sometimes fishing deep, it's a little hard. You know, when you're 30, 40, 50 feet, it's a little hard, but I'll bump it to a quarter and it's not too bad.
All right.
What leader length do you start at between the weight and
Oh,
the bait?
Gosh, they're probably around 24 inch, 20 to 24 to 28 inch lead to speed things up. So you're not like, sometimes if you're fishing, you know, like at New Maloney's where I'm snagging like crazy,
Right.
you know, I'm going through more than I tied. And if I can get away with just replacing the hook, I'll just, it'll shorten the leader, but it still works, you know, but,
That's longer than I would do.
Yeah.
I normally am less. I'm probably 1.5-ish.
So that there was a thing that, you know, back in the day also where you put like the bullet weight on, you put a bead on it, like a glass bead,
Mhm.
and then tied it on. Did you?
Brass and glass.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for the Carolina rig?
Yeah.
No, that, I never did that. It
Never did
was,
that?
I never got into that. A little bit as a Texas rig, you know, trying to clack the brass and glass, but never as the Carolina. Like I said, the traditional Carolina, you know, the bigger weight with the glass beads and the, you know, more to make the noise. And they used to run, some of the stuff I've seen is just super long leaders. I mean, really long, 3-footers.
Yeah, I don't know how you cast them things without smacking yourself
Yeah.
in the back of the
You
head.
know, they got big, heavy bait. I mean, it's a heavy presentation, and I just did mine more as a finesse technique to replace the split shot rig
Yeah.
because it didn't make sense to me to do that.
Right. So recently I found, or somebody talked to me about doing a Carolina rig, but like throwing 1 ounce.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doing super heavy
Super
Carolina
heavy.
rig.
yeah.
So part of that, in that theory that I've heard, is you want the weight to disturb the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bait to come in behind it. Something to draw a little bit more attention.
Yeah, I think that's the theory of the Carolina rig. Was the big weight was exactly what you're saying is, it's causing a disturbance, puffing up mud and making banging around, and all of a sudden here's this bait fluttering back there, and to trigger the bite.
I've had times of the year where you feel a thump, but then there's no, like, you look at your worm and there's no scratches or marks or anything on there, and you're like, well, I don't know. And then somebody recently or whatever was like, yeah, they're probably hitting the weight. I went, huh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Like, should you switch to a jig or something like that? Like, at that point, get something that's disturbing the bottom and not have the flutter back there.
That's good. That's a good question. I think that would have to be based on if that's happening multiple times.
Yeah.
That they're like, man, I just got hammered, and when I set the hook, nothing. The bait's fresh. Nothing doesn't look like it got messed with. Then it might be pretty smart to go to a jig or even a Texas rig.
Or a Ned rig.
Yeah, they're your Ned rig.
Stupid Ned rig.
So John, with this, like, where are you at? Like, if you,
What scenario are you throwing this in?
yeah,
It's rare that I start with it. I'm like most people, I like trying to throw reaction baits in the morning. Just I enjoy that. It's my favorite way to fish. What happens in about 98% of the time I fish is when I can't get a reaction bite, it's just my go-to confident way to put fish in the boat. But I think part of it too, back in the day when we did a lot of team tournaments, you're fishing for points, you're trying to qualify for TOCs, you're trying to win Angler of the Years. And this was just a way to put fish in the boat. And during that period is when, like, the little 4.5 inch green weenies got hot. It's almost like finesse fishing really took over in the late 80s through the 90s, right?
yeah,
It's funny because it really did. Everything went finesse fishing. And
Still kind of hasn't gone back.
well, yeah, and it was just a great way for me to put fish in the boat. If I didn't have to pick it up, I wouldn't, but pretty much got to pick it up, and it's a confident bait, right? Everybody has their confident bait.
right.
For me, I can grab a Carolina rig and be extremely confident that I have a chance to catch a fish. Now I'm trying to adapt a little more with drop shotting. The Delta, that's like all I do. But in the lakes, I don't. It's something I need to learn more in the lakes is the drop shot. I don't have a lot of confidence in it, which sounds weird, right?
You'd think a Carolina rig would work in the Delta, though.
It would. I
Caught fish.
have, but
Carolina
not
rigging.
much. You know why I don't? I think the reason is in the Delta, the bulk of our casts, or for me, is I'm target fishing. I'm trying to pitch to an edge of a weed. I'm in front of a tule clump in a hole in a weed, where the Carolina rig to me is more of a drag, flats, edgy. Like now, I think the Delta, in fact, I know it will. You can get on a dead low tide where you're working an outer edge of a weed line in the Delta, and if you got in tight and you just drag that Carolina rig in, that 7 to 12 foot, you're going to catch them.
Yeah.
There ain't no doubt.
My brother, that was his thing, is he would split shot the outside weed line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
that'll work.
Just go down the bank and just put the trolling motor on one and just drag that.
Especially
thing.
the guy in the back. Like if you're having sort of a tough day, and I've done it in White Slough, where the tide was sucked out, tough day of fishing, and I'm like, you know what? I rigged one up, but probably didn't have Carolina rig, but I pegged it.
Yeah.
And just to try it, and I remember it did work. It will work, but on the most part, it's my lake technique. just dragging it around docks, dragging around deep reefs, but like I said, you get around the rock, it gets, you definitely are trying to shake out a few.
So besides the tube, what are your other go-to baits on that?
As far as baits, yeah, that's number one. The 6-inch, what do you always forget what you call them?
MM3 or margarita mutilator?
Margarita mutilators. Like I said, the orange crush is my color too now.
Roboworm.
Yeah, roboworms, all roboworms. I started fishing, like I say, the dead ringer is, the 8-inch dead ringer Carolina rig is a killer. And the Zoom trick worm Carolina rig is another bait.
The Zoom trick worm, it floats.
It's not the.
It's more buoyant.
Yeah,
It's more
more
buoyant.
buoyant.
Doesn't
It's not the actual floater, but it's more buoyant.
Yeah.
But it's just that straight, little bit bigger, straight. The watermelon. Keep it simple. Watermelon red, and all those baits work. But the one I think that is to me is that dead ringer. Man, I've caught so many fish and big fish on that bait, and I'm really looking forward to in a couple weeks or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you go to Clear Lake, you're gonna
Yeah.
mop them up.
So
I throw like a brush hog. I
Oh,
will
yeah.
go to a 4.5-inch on that, but I'm running a smaller hook. But I will throw a brush hog on that also.
Great
I
bait.
do know of people who throw like creature baits and stuff like that. I keep meaning to do it, but I never end up doing it.
Yeah.
But like if I'm gonna throw a creature bait, I'll throw a jig rig, a jig, or something like that. But
Well,
at the same time, I'm throwing a brush hog, which is a creature bait, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's in my brain's a little crooked or something.
there it is.
brush hog.
Great bait. That is a great
And
bait.
I don't know if you guys noticed on this, but if you look, I break the arms off the front of that,
Oh,
and it gives it more flail. You can break the back of the arms off, leave the fronts connected, and it can lay in more, or you can leave them original the way they are, and it doesn't have any
Yeah.
front action.
I
I don't know if it matters, but I'll play with them and
Yeah.
do it.
I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to Carolina rig because it's sort of boring.
Yeah.
You're just sort of chilling.
But it can be so deadly.
Oh no, it could be very deadly, and I'm pretty much a chilled out, lazy kind of guy, so it's perfect for me. Get your lunch out, sit in the back, and
I mean, it's literally
get
out
'em.
of all the pinging the minnows and all this other stuff, you still hear pros talking about it.
oh yeah, it ain't going away.
Current day,
Yeah.
talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
You talk about a technique that, like, nobody talks about split shot, and there's not one person on the pro that I've even heard, I should say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that talks about split shotting. But I definitely hear them talking about Carolina.
Well, and you know what? The cool part about the Carolina rig too, it could be at any depth. You can Carolina rig in a foot,
Yeah.
or you can Carolina rig in 100 feet. There's no depth that it doesn't work. Don't be afraid to throw it up shallow. I mean, it is just a great technique to catch fish,
Yeah.
especially if it's a tough bite. If you're out there just smashing them, throwing fun baits, I wouldn't even pick it up. But when you start grinding and you're sort of struggling, I would highly recommend trying to get used to fishing it, because it will put some fish in the boat on that day where it's really tough.
It'll pay off.
Absolutely.
So every time I pick it up, I always catch fish on it. And then for some reason, when it comes to a tournament, I don't throw it.
You know why?
Like in a tournament, it's confidence is what it is.
No, you can't go like this with it.
Oh no, you can go like that with it. But it's just a confidence thing. Like I used to drag drop shot a lot. I used to drag Carolina rig. Now I don't drag at all. Everything I do is casting.
Like
And it's
blind,
been that
blind
way for a
casting.
while.
Yeah.
It's blind
Yeah.
casting, casting out, casting at
Yeah.
a target, casting at whatever. But I always keep meaning to pick it back up, and I actually have the same rod that I throw drop shot on. The Fury 702 is the same one that I run a light Carolina rig on.
I think too now, I mean, it's like you say, it's still in the talk, even
Right.
at the
Yeah.
highest levels. I just don't think a lot of people do it very much anymore. I think a lot of it because of where fishing is gone with electronics. You know, you're seeing them and looking at them, and I just think it's sort of some of the older techniques of not going. They're not gone, but I think less and less people are doing it, and which is good for me because those fish are not so
Used to it.
And
The one state that mentions it the most is Texas.
yeah,
You definitely hear a lot of Texas fishermen talk about it. Like even Ben Milliken's forward scan, right? Everybody talks about him. He's weighing in fish damn near every tournament on a Carolina rig.
yeah, big. One of my favorite things to drag is like underwater humps, island tops, out in the middle of nowhere. You got a nice island top up
Something
there.
you got to cover area with.
Yeah, you got to cover some ground and drag around it and cast across it. And that is absolutely used to be one of our favorite patterns to run was offshore because like back then too, it was pretty cool because it was all paper maps. You had to do a little homework to find this offshore stuff.
You had to be going across the water watching your 2D and go, wait, it just went up there.
Yeah.
And then turn around and go back and graph around a little bit.
And not be able to mark it
Well, you know what?
unless you threw a buoy out.
Yeah, and we buoy
Yeah.
it. And I still got buoy. Well, you know, my boat's so old school. It's as old a school as we have in the club. I still use buoys. And that was a big reason why we had some success too, was not a lot of people fish offshore back in the late 80s through the 90s. We were able to we'd be in 100, 150 boat tournaments and we'd be the 100th boat out and we would get our starting spot because it was offshore and nobody was on it.
And you kicked butt with it
Yeah.
because nobody was out there.
Exactly. And now everybody knows where everything is. So that we took advantage of that, I guess, you know,
Yeah.
back in the day. So you
What's
know, a lot of map reading.
what's happening, Steve Sumner? Nice of you to join in. Yeah, I think so. Like I think the Carolina rig is really good for that offshore kind of stuff. Like it helps you cover a lot of that stuff. You can still tuck in tight, but I think a lot of the times when people think Carolina rig, they're either following a contour line or they're fishing something offshore.
Mhm.
Which would help out, like, you know, you're beating the bank and you're moving down, right? Like that's something that some people don't do anymore. They go to spot to spot to spot
Right.
instead of
Right.
just
Cover water.
Put the
Put
trolling
it
motor
down
down and go.
and
Yeah.
going and covering
Yeah.
water, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a very good technique sometimes also, right? Because
Yeah.
You
Very old school in a
very
sense.
old school, and you could run into one of those big ones,
Yeah.
you know, that you wouldn't think's there, but nowadays you'd mark it. Like if you
Yeah.
found it, you'd mark it and be like, hey, this is a spot I want to come back to, even though you never knew that it was there.
Right.
Yeah, how many big fish of the tournaments have you caught on a Carolina rig?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've caught some really nice fish. Nothing crazy big, but let's say a lot of up to 6-pounders, which goes a long ways in tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've won a Folsom tournament, Carolina rigging. It was the first time I fished Folsom full, and it was an all Folsom.
The only time anyone's ever
Yeah,
fished
I never.
Folsom
It was
full.
it was an all Folsom circuit. New Bass ran a all Folsom, and I fished with a different guy. Of all names, name was Wayne Newton, but it wasn't Mr. Vegas. He's still people that. Anyway, the main peninsula was flooded, so it was nothing but flooded trees, and he was drop shotting, and I was Carolina rigging, and we had a really good day, and I stuck about a 6.5, and we won that tournament and took big fish.
It's a nice fish.
Yeah, it was.
Folsom.
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing day, but to fish the lake full like that, it was so weird. Like just seeing this, just the main point, and it was just underwater.
Yeah,
it was a trip.
So funny thing about the like lakes coming up, right? So I had an idea back when the water was low at Berryessa to make a waypoint and then take a picture of the bank from that waypoint and then label it like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or whatever it is. So that in theory, when the water got up, I could drive to that waypoint and look at what it is and be like, okay, there was rock here, there was a this there or that there. I never ended up doing it.
Yeah.
But that would have been brilliant to do. And not trying to interpret it something on the side scan and being like, I think there was rock here, I'm not sure. Because there's definitely some rock areas that I know of that I can't find underwater now, even on side scan or anything.
That could be silted in.
And that's what I wonder, like, okay, is it silted in? But don't know.
It's funny, when the water is super low, you can see all that stuff, but when it comes up, it's like, man, I can't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't, like, I know what area it's in, and you cast across it, and I don't feel any rock.
Yeah,
Or
yeah. It's like,
anything.
why am I not breaking off right there? It's like I'm
Yeah,
feeling
like-
feels like a mud bottom, right? Like that ain't right.
Right.
I know there was a big rock pile here, and you can't find it, and you're graphing, and it's like it's gone. Like
Right.
Brian said, though, it could be silted in.
Or like on the east side of Berryessa where it has the solo stumps on a big flat.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it'd be really nice to know where those are. I mean, you can graph the stumps. You could side scan those and ping them all out. But there's definitely some things that I kind of wish I ever did that idea.
Right. Or the foundations. Like, I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times the lake was low at Berryessa and you see the foundations on the east side. You're like, tell me a fish wouldn't like
Yeah.
hold next to something like this.
Especially spawn time or
Right.
something
Spawn
like that.
time, something like that. And then I know they're there. I've seen them.
Yeah.
But
I actually have I have waypoints from side scanning and run across those. I'll
Yeah.
have
And that's such a good area.
a house on that area.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that area. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carolina rig's definitely a deadly rig, and it should be something like I guarantee you that I have this stuff sitting in my box, ready to go. Like
Yeah.
if I needed to do it, I would do it, right? Or
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Yeah, I think that it's a technique that newer people, everybody should try it. I think some of the newer people, I think they should add that to the arsenal, because what's happened, I think, is we get so hardwired to drop shot.
Yeah.
And your drop shot, which is a great technique, don't get me wrong, it's a great technique. But
But
this
the
is,
days that it grinds
yeah,
out.
yeah. You know what? The Carolina rig just gives you another option. It's a different way to present a bait to the fish. It's just back there, just floating back there, right?
Yeah.
And majority of the bites on a Carolina rig is just weight. The most. You're just drag. All of a sudden your rod gets heavy, mushy heavy. Just set the hook, because
Yeah,
if it ain't a
you-
fish, that's okay, but you don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
if you're around rock, right, or so you know you're not in weeds, and you pull and that weight comes with you, there's only one thing that's not just like, if you get hung on a rock, it stops. Like, it doesn't come
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
So you just, some people say wait a little bit and hit them. It kind of depends on the day. If they're eating it all the way, you don't need to wait.
No. I figure by the time you're feeling the pressure, they've had it. They've already, while you are paused,
They've already swallowed it.
yeah, they've already sucked it in. So then you go to make your move to scoot it, and it starts loading up. You just reel down and swing. You know.
So if you feel them, do you swing from there, or you like you said, you reel down?
I reel down.
When you swing, how hard are you swinging? Are you popping them? You just kind of sweep setting them? Like,
It's more of a sweep set, but I'm trying to hit them too. It's a hard sweep set. It's this way, just because I don't set this way much when I'm dragging. It's more of a reel down and just lean in them and pray you hook them. And you do a lot. You do hook up a lot at Carolina rigging.
so with the hookup part, are you a EWG, straight shank? What's your preferred hook? Do you even know who makes it or any of that stuff? Size?
Gamakatsu 2-aught EWG. That's my main
Superline or regular?
regular. Like I say, I'm trying to keep it finesse as I can. Yeah, EWG, really simple. I used to use 1-aughts. Now that I use a 6-inch worm, mostly I went up to the 2-aught, and it just gets them. Just a 2-aught EWG. And it could be a different brand. It's what I like in the Gamakatsu's. But like I said, the other key too is like we were saying earlier is sit at home one day, pre-tie up 6, 8, 10 of these. I put 2 in a pack, 2 in a little foil, and then put them in a little storage thing and put in my tackle. And it's simple. That way you're not digging out leader line, you're digging out a swivel, you're digging out a hook. It's simple, right? You may have to grab a new weight, tie one hook, and you're ready to go again. So it's
Okay,
that helps a lot, having a pre-tied rigs.
And what line are you using to go between your hook and your swivel?
I use 99% of the time I use 10-pound monofilament.
10-pound mono. Specific mono?
The Bass Pro mono, they're cheapo. I've been using that forever, and it is as good a monofilament as I've ever used. The Bass Pro shops.
Now, are you wanting the mono
I use all low vis green, but that's personal preference.
so for it to float a little bit more, or
No, I just use mono because I'm old. I mean, it's for real. Seriously.
The answer is if it ain't broke, don't fix
exactly.
it.
Seriously, I use mono. I don't use fluorocarbon at all. I don't like it. I'm starting to get more into braid now. I go back and forth on my main line. I've been using some 10 to 15 pound braid, and then tie the to the braid with my leader.
Tie the swivel to the
Yeah,
blade.
yeah. And what I did there, I just learned a knot there too. And I always, because of braid, it can slip through. So I've always been so paranoid. But one of the reasons I would quit doing it, because you have to tie the Palomar knot, right? And it's a headache with a Carolina rig to tie the Palomar knot.
Yeah, with limp braid. Too.
So what I've just recently learned is, and so far so good, is I do the clinch knot. What'd you call it? Cinch knot.
Cinch knot.
But I go through twice. I go through and I loop it through the second time, come down 6 or 7 through the bottom, through the top, and with the braid. And it hasn't.
So that way too, you have 2 lines around
Yes.
that swivel.
Yeah, 2
Right?
lines.
So a little more strength, right? You're not
Yeah.
holding that line with that one.
Yeah. And knock on wood, I have not slipped a knot yet. So I think it's okay. So that helps. Because
it's so far away from the hook that you could always leave a little bit of extra tag line.
oh yeah, absolutely. I always leave at least a quarter.
Yeah.
And it's just that way it gives it that little. If it wants to slip a 16th, well, you're still okay, right? Even
Right.
an 1/8.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know.
see, I have my braid, 20-pound braid or whatever's on my line. I'll run that straight to the swivel, and then I actually run mono also, but it's for the reason of it. Like fluoro will lay down. The other thing is mono's a little more resistant to nicks and stuff like that because you are definitely down there in the dirt.
Yeah.
So I'll have that, and then the other thing is I swing hard. Like when I set the hook, and I like to have that mono to have that little bit of stretch.
Yeah.
Because if I did fluoro, I was losing them, and then I went back to mono, and I wasn't losing them as much.
Right. The other thing I'll do too is on my hook end, when I tie my hook, when I cut the excess line from the knot, I'll leave it an 1/8 to a 3/16 because I think it works as a keeper because you have that little stiff piece of fishing line. So when you slip your worm up, it sort of holds it up just a smidge.
Oh, you
It
use
just-
it,
I
you use it to
think
hold the bait.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, it's holding
Yeah,
the bait just a little bit, not a lot. It ain't like so ridiculous, but because you pull the bait over it and it just grabs it a little bit. It helps us a little bit. That's just something I do. You know,
Yeah.
something a little different.
Definitely makes sense.
Does not. I mean, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta help. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
So,
think about
so
it.
when you thread your bait on, you're saying you're threading it, so you definitely, the eye of your hook is completely
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
bait.
Yeah, I go minimum of a 1/4 inch into the head of the worm, minimum to 5/16. I like getting it on there and getting it up the line.
Getting that hook
Yeah.
a little bit farther
Yeah,
down the bottom.
and it puts that hook back just a little bit. And like I say, I've gone up to, I went up to the 2/0 hook because I throw primarily the 6-inch worm. You know, so it's a little bit bigger worm. You know, back when everything was the 4.5 inch worms, I used to use the 1/0. So now the other thing, and I don't do this anymore, and I'm tempted to try this again, is I used to also rig up, I had multiple Carolina rig rods. That was my basic setup, but then I used to also set up a rod with 8-pound test. I used 8-pound leader and a size 1 straight shanked worm hook, throwing the 3-inch reapers. Carolina rigging 3-inch reapers. Deadly.
Yeah,
Freaking deadly, man. And I don't know why I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, my dad throws
It's
that. In fact,
crazy.
I think he still throws split shot with a straight shank
I don't
and
even
then
think I
puts
have
like a
one.
little reaper on there. He prefers straight shank on
I
his
don't have one.
versus an EWG.
See the old floats? There's some gets it floats. But it was another thing that nobody was doing, right?
Right.
Who's Carolina rigging a 3-inch reaper? I mean, it's a nothing bait, and I caught up to 6-pounders on that.
Yeah, that's a bait
I
that
caught him on
Crazy.
drop shot.
that's a
Recently.
bait that has been very good in the
It's just gone away,
back in
right?
the day. Well, one, it's hard to find them too, right? Like not very many bait shops are putting them out.
Yeah.
Keeper.
Yeah, keep
I don't
them
even
warm.
know.
Pro Worms had them. I don't know if they're even in business anymore.
Yeah,
They used to make a
Pro Worms and-
leech that was really good.
Right.
Yeah, and I know they had them on the shelf at Fisherman's Warehouse in Fairfield and Sac. I just don't know if they still do. I'm not sure if it's still on the clearance. The color reaper that I throw the most is 1001. It's
Salt and pepper.
salt and pepper with a blue core.
Yeah.
Ah.
Great.
And
bait.
if you can, and I think that one's the one with the chartreuse tail.
Yep.
And then I think the 1000 is without the chartreuse tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless you. That's
And
just like I said. That's just another finessey, you know, because there's days, a lot of days where it's just flat out hard to get bit, and it's just not a bad thing to mess with. And then if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. But I would recommend trying it. At least try Carolina rigging, give it a shot.
And I
You
think,
can and all year round, works year round.
yeah, year round does not matter. Does
No.
not matter what lake you are.
No,
It is, one of the things that I think the Reaper works so well at is that if you pop it, it'll glide and it like flutters, not like a flutter spoon, but kind of like a flutter spoon. If you pop it, it kind of comes up and then like drifts down. It doesn't crash down.
yeah,
Right.
because
Like
it's
the rest of them do.
such a lightweight
Hey,
bait.
And if we're talking about keeper worms, I'll tell you guys.
Sumner wants to know what a Reaper is. I'm gonna go grab one real quick.
So
God, I thought I
get a
had. I'm
Reaper.
sorry I didn't bring them. I thought I had them.
I'm gonna tell a old man secret right now. So a keeper worm. If my dad's watching it, his number one color. He actually calls Reaper or the keeper worm company, and he orders colors.
Yeah.
And it's one color that he orders, 82, and he gets them made in worms, creature baits,
Is that, the,
Cincos.
is that the original weenie?
It's basically
Wow.
it's this
What
color
you got on
actually.
Yeah, that's
That's the color right there that he gets made.
that's a little
It's an
Reaper.
82. It's basically almost like a watermelon red.
They call it green weenie red flake. Is what
Yeah,
they call
but
it.
it's
But
a
it's
82,
got-
and that's
That's-
my dad's
That's a good one.
go-to.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched it, we just did a Strait Legends with him.
That dropped
Just dropped today.
a couple hours
Go see
ago.
this one.
And then this is that salt and pepper blue core that we're talking about. So you can see like it's got that faint blue in there. Actually, this might be purple core.
No, that's
Is
blue.
that blue or purple?
That's blue. I know you're
All
colorblind.
right, I'm colorblind. I can't tell.
Yeah, those look
But you
good
can
too.
see it's mainly just clear, but it does have that body in there to kind of
Yeah.
bring it out.
That's a great bait for like if the water is like crystal clear.
Yeah.
But both of those baits,
It's good. It's a really good Berryessa bait.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good Berryessa bait, or those motherlode lakes, right? Like
Yeah.
any of those lakes that are like trouty, that are super clear. Either of these baits, those colors you're gonna catch some fish, I guarantee you. And my dad will talk to you. I fished Comanche with him, throwing this color. He caught a 7-pound trout, Carolina rigging on it, right?
Yeah.
The next day, caught a 7-pound bass in the same exact spot with the same color, Carolina
That's a
rigging
trip.
on
Yeah.
Comanche.
Yeah, it's just another.
It just shows you
It's
how
just-
stupid Comanche is.
Yeah. But it is, like you said, it's just such a.
Two sevens.
You know, I know. Drop shotting is dominating the finesse world and
Yeah.
the Ned rig, but it's just something that I think if people would give it a shot and give it some time, I think they'd like it. I think this would be an arsenal in their fishing,
It's a
whatever
good
how you
sleeper.
want to word it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a sleeper thing.
especially-
Something that older people know about, and maybe some of these younger people that are getting into these fishing that's live scoping don't even have a clue about.
No, why would they do that, right?
Right.
And in the meantime, on the days that their scoping's not working, they're lost, right? They don't
Right.
really have too many techniques to fall back on. And so they just go looking and they're having a rough time. Instead of like, well,
Yeah.
let's think where we are at, what time of year, what depth do we think, what are we grabbing, suck to the bottom, and let me drag a Carolina rig to them and see if I can put a few in the boat.
You could definitely pick up fish that you can't see.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely, yeah.
Sumner, this is, and for all you, this is what the logo looks like for keeper worms. Just oval with the keeper on there. Like I said, Tackle Warehouse was carrying them.
I think they still do.
I think your
Yeah.
closest one is like Fresno. What's the one down there? Turlock?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Is it? Yeah,
They should probably have that. They have a really good selection at that store. I know that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know Pro Worms was carrying them, but I don't know if they're still in business.
Yeah, these keeper worms are softer than other baits,
Yeah.
but you can still get life out of them, but they definitely are softer.
I'll
than
tell you
some
what,
other ones, than robo worms.
starting fishing, I used keeper worms. That was the thing
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. Yep, keeper. Yeah, that was they were there at the start almost, right?
And specifically
For the
those
for the
two
little
colors.
green
Yeah,
weenies
those
and
two
the
colors.
and for the reapers, and they were sort of the start of that or
Yeah.
part of that start, you know.
I
And
think it's either keeper or the other one. Which one's the one that had Morning Dawn first? There's Witch's Tea, Morning Dawn.
that was keeper.
I want to say keeper. There was another bait company, but I can't think of the name of it. But Robo Worm modeled it after that color. They weren't even Robo was not the first one with that
No,
color.
they modeled their shape too.
Yeah.
And why not, right? It was a fantastic bait that you didn't need to.
Is it?
You didn't have to change anything. Maybe put your own little twist on the color and send it out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They just figure out how to reduplicate it and
Right,
send it back out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now Carolina rigging is something I just love to do, and it's like I said, that's my bailout. You know, but I can do it all day. I like it, so I don't mind it. I don't try to start. I never start with. Well, I can't say never. If that's
Unless
just
you're
flat.
on that
Yeah,
bite.
that's the bite. I know I'm going. This is pre-fishing and nothing's working but grinding, and then we'll pick it up right off the get. But yeah, have one ready to go and give it a shot, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised on the fish you catch. And it's not a small. You can get big fish on it. You
Yeah.
can catch quality tournament, that 2 to 4 pounders on that bait, very consistently.
Yeah.
It isn't, don't be fooled like it's oh my God, I can only get, small fish on it. That ain't true.
Yeah.
Especially the reaper,
No,
the
if-
reapers,
if-
the leeches, those baits, again, they're small. And the ones I was using were even smaller than those, because I was using a size 1, Gamakatsu size 1 straight shanked hook, very tiny. And it was a 3-inch, literally a 3-inch bait. And it just was very effective.
So one of the things that I like to do is actually fall time with Carolina rig that I used to do, and I kind of just remembered about it, and I'm probably gonna have to start doing it again, is throw it underneath the bait. So if you see like a bait ball and stuff like that, and you have fish blowing through that bait ball, throw that Carolina rig underneath it,
Yeah.
and the fish are just cruising around vacuuming basically. And that's actually when I'm throwing the reaper, throwing that salt and pepper blue core,
Yeah, it looks just like a bait fish.
and they'll suck it up, and you're just dragging that thing along there, and you'll catch them. And but that is a cover water scenario. Like you're making casts, bringing it in, casts, bringing it in. Like you have to spray cast.
Yeah.
Because they're blowing bait up. You know, they're here 30 feet away, then 100 feet away, and you're just trying to go like be like the leftover scraps that they want to scoop up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. It's a fun technique. And it'll bail you out more times than not.
Yeah.
It'll save your
Yeah.
day, or save your tournament, because I'd rather weigh 5 small ones than nothing, or 2 or 3. I'd rather at least when you go to the scale with at least 5, you don't feel quite as bad, even though they're
Right.
not big. And that
Now-
technique will save you.
Now, isn't there, and maybe I'm sidetracking a little bit, but isn't there a technique of throwing out like a Carolina rig, but having like a jerk bait tied onto the back?
That's what I was talking about earlier when I was
Yeah.
throwing it's like dang it. So it's basically like a small crankbait, and then it's doing what you were talking about with your gets it,
Mhm.
is it'll suspend up, and then as you drag it, it'll wiggle down, and then you let it swing up, and then you wiggle down. It looks beautiful. It's really hard to throw that, because what ends up happening is your leader line and those treble hooks cross with each other if you throw it too oblong versus like a hidden point or a weedless bait. I have tried it one time at Comanche, and that's why your idea reminded me of that, because
okay.
I tried it on that, but I haven't got bit doing that. I threw it one day.
But you know what? That's pretty cool you brought that up, because that's something I've completely forgot about. I remember that never really got popular, I don't think. But once in a while you'd hear a chirp on that Carolina rig and a crankbait,
Yeah.
or a jerk bait, and you're going, gosh, that sounds like it
sense.
makes sense, right? That's something that would work. But like you said, you got a lot more moving parts, a lot more hooks, a lot more. But
You almost have to like drop it down and then drag
Yeah,
it
you
Yeah.
gotta
instead of
yeah, that's a good point too. Just
So the
let
other
it out
thing-
with the trolling motor and start heading out, let the line out, and then just start pulling it across the point or the island top or whatever you're fishing. But
right.
So the one thing that I ran across on that was, if you couldn't make a really far cast, you just kind of like pick the weight up. Like the crankbait would have enough drag to it that it would just like pick the weight up instead of dragging it forward. So they would kind of almost like teeter-totter, and then the bait wasn't really. And I'm looking at this 2 forward scan, trying to figure out how to make this work. And then I did put it down because I'm throwing around fish, but I didn't have anything come look at me. Like it was obvious they didn't care about it.
Right.
Right.
But in all reality, in that situation, I actually needed to more than likely throw a just plain old Carolina rig
yeah,
and not get the whole
Yeah,
crankbait thing
yeah.
involved.
and you know what? And keep it simple. You don't figure out what works best for you. What pound test, what kind, for your
For you
main
or
line,
your-
your leaders, your hooks, what style hook, straight shank, EWG, what baits, that's all personal preference. I don't think there's a wrong answer. You got to figure out what works best for you. But boy, I would highly recommend giving it a shot.
So if you're at Clear Lake, are you still running 10-pound
Yeah.
line?
Yeah.
Even at Clear Lake around Lava Rock and stuff like that?
Yep.
You're just confident with 10.
It's just my way I do it. Like I
Ain't
said.
broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Well, what happens too is even with the leader, but now with the braid, it's a little heavier, because if I am set up with the braid, like I say, that's comes and goes. But what I've noticed with them smaller spinning rods is you start getting over 10, 12 pounds size line, the reels don't work that well. They sort of, the line wants to fall off the reel. There's problems that I've had. But with the braid, you can sort of get away with it, because braids, man, it could be good, but when it's not good, it'll drive you crazy, right?
And what braid do you use on your reel?
Jesus Christ, I can't think of the name.
Power Pro.
Power Pro. I'm sorry, Power Pro.
OG Power Pro, nothing fancy, just
Nothing
a
fancy.
cheap basic.
Yeah, same. I get it at Walmart.
I think that's so. I've tried I've tried doing like the Max Quattro on a spinning rod. It doesn't work. It gets all wrapped up, twisted up.
I've even gone to the spider wire and it was fine. Believe it or not, it was fine.
I tried a Phoenix braid. It was a Phoenix. I think it's Phoenix. I tried that type of braid one time.
Not great.
I went right back to Power Pro.
Yeah, Power Pro's it just works, right?
Yeah,
Power Pro just works.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
If it's a bait caster, I will throw a Max Quattro if I'm feeling bougie. Other than that, I throw just regular old school generic. You can buy it at Walmart.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm doing this all with spinning rods, medium to medium heavy spinning rods, 7-footers, nothing crazy, and just keep it pretty simple. Pretty simple, but like I said, pre-tying your leaders is huge. It just makes life so much easier on the boat. You can just, like I said, you can open up your foil pack. And this is just what works for me.
I've seen people do like the little plastic baggies where you put them in little, kind of like how you get the leader material.
The beads.
So now I do that. Now I pre-tie my drop shot rigs, and I mean from the weight complete.
Yeah, you use a swivel.
I use a swivel. I tie leaders for drop shotting too. And I put them in the Ziploc bags. So in the Delta where I drop shot, it's a simple, literally one knot and I'm back fishing again. It isn't like I'm having to build my drop shot, right? And so for me, it's just simpler to be prepared.
I can't bring that many leaders. I break them off too fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, so
I'm hung up. Screw it.
something from old school to new school too, and we're talking about you tying your leaders to where it's faster. You don't have spot lock.
I do not.
So,
which is probably a good thing because that means he gets to drag things and drift
correct,
things.
100%. But if he's going to tie, he needs to hurry up and tie.
I gotta
right?
speed
You don't
things
you don't
up.
have the time like somebody that has spot lock that could spot lock and then take their time to do whatever they want. Especially at say like the Delta or if it's windy somewhere like put it like or anything like that.
I'm going, and if my non-boater's not comfortable on the trolling motor, then I'm at the mercy of the wind and or the current, or
head it out into the lake and then hope you tie it before
or the Delta. I'll literally, if it's super windy or it's just ripping and I don't want to get blown out, I'll literally pull my trolling motor, get on the big motor, stuff it in the tulies, so I can go sit and get retied to get going, because you can in a hurry get blown away, by the current, as you guys know, and everybody knows that. So it's like spot lock would be nice, but I just can't.
So what
don't
you're
have
telling
it.
me, it's either John lock or no lock.
Yes. Yep. Yeah,
It works though.
Yeah, it works. But like you said, it's funny that you said that. That maybe that's one of the reasons I did it was to speed up, because wind blow and the boat drifting, because especially we never had any of the spot lock stuff or nothing, and I still don't. But everything was for me because number one, because it was tournament fishing, right? We get so amped up that it's like, everything's got to be fast, right?
Right.
Oh shoot, I didn't even eat nothing all day, or I didn't drink no water. Like it's 107, and all of a sudden it's like, gee, why am I dizzy? Gee, I wonder why.
I don't feel so fuzzy.
I haven't set my pole down for 8 hours, but
I almost got myself today with heat stroke.
Yeah.
I had to actually make myself go sit in the truck because
it is definitely hot right now.
Yeah. I definitely, when I couldn't see anything inside my sunglasses because I had so much sweat in my sunglasses, I was like, and then I was doing something and I stood up and I went, oh, I need to go sit down for a minute.
Yeah, it's funny how even at club level,
how intense
it
how
just
wrapped in
you do. I do too, and it's like you're all out having a good time, and we are, and it's not a huge deal, but you're still in that mode.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
I'm if I'm not casting, I don't have a chance to catch one.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I got to retie. It's like, well, I'm going to tie one knot. Then,
But like with the Carolina rig, you could throw it out there, sit down in the seat
Oh,
if
yeah.
somebody else is running the boat
Oh, yeah.
and eat your banana or,
Yep.
or get that drink.
Yeah,
or-
absolutely.
If I'm changing
Oh,
baits,
I've caught a ton of fish with the pole not in my hand.
right.
You know, I'll be netting or my partner hooks up, especially in the lakes when I am Carolina rigging. I'll just set my pole down. I'll try to set it where behind a cleat or something where it can't be taken, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And all of a sudden you're up there, you net, you peek, you look back and your pole's just getting nailed. You know, it's like you're just scrambling. Right?
You
Fire
look
dr-
back and your
yeah,
rod's just
yeah. Fire drill, man. So that is an advantage of the Carolina rig too. There,
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah,
don't have to bring it in especially if you're in a spot where it ain't super snaggy, where
Yeah.
you feel confident. You know, I can set my pole, go help my partner, or go get a drink, or whatever you got to do. You can set your pole down, so you're still in the game.
Now I have had a co-angler at Don Pedro who threw his Carolina rig out, and like a couple minutes later he goes, "Where's my rod? I can't find it. Where's it at?"
Oh no!
And we were like, the wind was blowing us down the bank, and I told him, I said, "Hey, I like we're gonna have to go down this bank fast. I can't slow the boat down enough. It's like the wind is pushing us." And it went so fast, I didn't hear the rod come out. He didn't hear the rod come out, but it was gone. And I'm sure somebody has found it because it was like a day use kind of area, and that
Oh,
water
yeah.
got down low enough after that. So I'm
Oh,
sure
yeah.
somebody got a bonus
100%.
rod.
Hey, Brian,
But,
you want to check this one out?
No, you don't want me to have that.
Yeah,
That's
for
a,
those of you that don't know, if you want to know, if you're watching the Strait Legends video where we interview his dad, the one that just came out today at 4:00, this is what Brian was playing with damn near the whole video, and then he took this thing and goes and spins it all the way around, and then I look at him and I'm like, "Dude," and then he's like, "Oh crap." And then he puts it down, and then he picks up like this or something like that and plays with it for the rest of the thing.
yeah.
That's funny, man.
ADHD. I'm sorry.
I couldn't
So-
help it.
So the whole video,
Because I saw you pick that one up, I'm going, no, yeah.
So the whole video, he's sitting there looking down.
Playing with
The whole video,
playing with all this
not
stuff.
looking at the camera, not looking at his dad, nothing. He's
Well,
just
shoot.
playing with stuff.
Next time, the next video, I'm going to bring my Carolina rig stuff. You can tie me up some rigs.
I 100% would tie some rigs.
I'll have
I
some
learned-
leaders ready to go at the end
I
of the
would
night.
100% tie some rigs.
That would be.
It's like a little kid at a dinner table. If you don't want it thrown on the ground, you have to keep it out of reach. So I'm gonna have to do that with
Oh, shit.
them.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to move some stuff.
Have a Brian zone.
Yeah. I will definitely.
Too funny. Oh, man, too funny.
Rachel,
I told you not to put those in front of him.
I purposely.
I'm actually impressed that he got this bait to spin
And not hook himself?
and not get this hook, because this thing will reach out and touch you.
Yeah, actually, that bait I pulled out of a guy's hand this year, and helped a guy pull it out of his toe at that Mike Long Classic.
Is that the
And I
is that the
recently-
Chapo?
Yeah.
And I recently had a fish go haywire on me while I was holding it, and this front hook went into my pant leg. Luckily, it was through my pocket, and I had shorts on, so there was like a couple extra layers, and I had to rip it back out. It was that far in there, but didn't touch skin. Got game close.
And your
Didn't
opinion,
touch skin.
let me ask you, because I don't know the true, what is Whopper Plopper to the Chapo, in your opinion? What's the big difference? Because I truly don't know. I don't own one of
So-
those.
Noise.
A Whopper Plopper has a soft tail, and a Chapo has a hard tail.
Okay.
So it makes different sounds. And the Chapo, they specifically designed it to start earlier, start quicker.
Okay.
So that when you first reel, it makes a plop noise or a chop noise, whatever the heck
I've
they
never
call
even
it,
really
faster.
seen one up close and personal. I did.
Um,
I knew there was. Brian
I
had
don't-
told me there was a difference in it, but I didn't know exactly
I think
because they look pretty much the same, right?
I think for the most
On
part,
the
it's
most
kind
part?
of tomato, but the other half of that is they've been hearing plopper for so long.
The Chapo's
that
a little
I-
different.
Chapo sounds different.
I'll tell you though, like with the Chapo, be very careful. Like
Well,
because
both of
these,
them.
either of them, right? These hooks are so far apart. Like my partner had a fish on the front hook, and when it flipped and flopped, when he was trying to grab it, this hook's just flying.
It just reaches
yeah.
out there.
It's just reaching out, and look how far it's reaching, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's a long ways.
that's a long
And
way.
this is a smaller version than the one he was throwing.
Correct. And it buried the hook. Like it was sticking through his finger and touching out the other side.
Ouch.
It came right out.
Got the
I
old
have a
Yankee,
first aid
Yankee.
kit in my I have a first aid kit in my boat now.
If all else fails, you get a hook in you. Look up the braid trick online, or do it before you go fishing.
Did you see that there's a tool for that now? There's a device,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they came up with something.
yeah, that you can put in it, and you pop.
I'll tell you what, I did not use braid when
That'd
I
be a
did
good
it,
raffle prize.
right? I didn't use braid. I actually pulled out 20-pound mono because that's what I had right there. And
That's
it-
strong enough.
it's strong enough, and I think it actually worked a little better than the braid because the mono, like what you were talking about, hitting them hard, stretched a little bit, and it's kind of like a jerk strap trying to jerk a vehicle out of a hole or mud or whatever. It kind of stretched, and then it just
slingshotted it out.
it slingshot. It
Yeah,
was
but if it broke, it would have hurt him that much more.
yeah.
It'd have hurt, but
Snap!
but
Oh,
it would have
sorry.
been it would have been him hurting though. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been my problem. It
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
been his
yeah.
problem.
I was all on 3,
Yeah,
1.
One pop.
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's painful though.
But yeah, as far as the Chapo though, that is basically kind of, I don't know, like he throws the 120 size.
Yeah.
I throw the 105 size. I always kind of tend to a smaller, even a whopper plopper bait.
I think
All
going,
even.
yeah, I think the last tournament
Or
I
is it
was
what
throwing
call it,
the
flipper flopper?
The flipper flopper, right?
was it the
Flopper,
nine?
flopper, flopper.
Was it the
Flipper
90? I think
flopper.
the size I was throwing.
Yeah, so the 90 is a really small one with
It was
a small
small.
bait, and it when it comes across the water, there's a kid's toy that is basically like a little ball with a bunch of tentacles coming off of
Yeah.
it. It has little suction cups on the outside of it,
Huh.
and if you roll that across the table, that's what a whopper plopper, the 90 sounds like.
Yeah, that's
Just
what I threw Sunday, and I did get our one nice keeper, and I had a really nice one come up on it, but it never got it.
Well,
I felt the hit, but I think it more rammed it than grabbed it.
See, I'll throw the 75 if I'm going to go compact,
Yeah.
and then I'll jump up to the 90, not 90, 120,
110.
110.
110.
I'll jump up to the 110. I do have the bigger ones, but I typically throw the 75 or the 110.
I'll tell you, John, though, fishing, when we fished Comanche last, the wind was blowing. My partner was throwing a Chapo. I was throwing a whopper plopper. He was getting bit. He was getting the bites. He was catching fish. As soon as we moved and we went into a different area after we fished that, and there was no wind, his was not getting bit, and the whopper plopper was getting
Wow,
bit.
that's a trip.
It's
Maybe noise, right? Like this one's a little
a
louder.
louder, harder pop.
So that was working better with the windy condition
Correct.
and the whopper plopper in the calm condition. Interesting.
Same kind of thing as like
Interesting.
I'll throw a Spook Junior a lot, but if it's windy, I'll upgrade to the Vixen or the Rover, just because it makes a bigger commotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's same kind of theory to me. And then
Yeah.
the same thing, if I'm throwing the 75 and the wind picks up, I'll switch to the larger ones
Yeah.
to get that bigger tail to
Yeah.
smack.
And to bounce back to you know what, too, to bounce back to the Carolina rig real quick, man, not trying to throw this at you guys, but you can try the finesse style like I like, but don't be afraid to try the old school. Big hook, big weight, big rod, bigger bait. You know, you can throw anything on that thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you got to figure I think it's worth your while to experiment with the Carolina rig. You know, for me, I learned it's a great technique for finesse fishing, and I use finesse. You know, spinning rod, light line, small baits. But I will go to a 4 and 5/0 creature bait, bigger bait too. But I just, like I said, it's such a great technique to put fish in the boat.
It's a good backseater technique.
great
on
backseater
top
technique.
of-
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Just use it
great
regular.
backseater. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And Angel, I can't repeat that comment for risk of getting in trouble. But yeah, size. He's just talking about size, and
Okay.
not having to worry about which size is which.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, you don't.
Um,
I mean, you can literally go with a small enough hook, and you can literally Carolina rig the little
I do know
the
people
crappie closet bait. That I know if you can see it, but you can literally Carolina that with a size 2 hook. I mean,
Yeah,
sounds crazy, but it would work.
I do know people who Carolina rig Kitex.
Oh, yeah, anything,
So, and
any
then
soft
they
plastic.
actually keep it moving a little bit faster to get enough of that little tail wag.
Yeah, it's a technique that, well, like when we were talking, like if you could only pick one technique, you know, it would be the Carolina rig for me because there's so many, you could throw so many baits, you know, that with that thing, like, you know, when we were talking about the only bait with the Cinco is so versatile, where the Carolina rig is too. You could float baits, you could throw anything, you could drag it.
Cinco on a
Well,
Carolina
well, that's
rig.
what. Oh, and very effective. But you can also, like Brian brought up, you can Carolina rig a crankbait, a jerk bait.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
you can get a weighted jerk bait or crankbait that will stay down and
What?
maybe cure that problem James was having because the bait is wanting to stay down.
But what about a frog? A Carolina rig frog.
Why not? I'm serious. Why
I
not?
guarantee you somebody's doing it out there. And they probably just got mad at
Well-
you for saying it.
Well, they're like,
You know,
no, the
and
big
that's-
secret.
Because it floats. It would stand up and it's got little tails.
Yeah, you can literally throw.
We're going to Clear
anything.
Lake. That's it. We're going to try it. Let's go.
We're going Friday.
We're going-
Oh, that's right. You guys are heading up
Yeah,
there.
we're going to be up at Clear Lake this weekend. Not sure if I'm going to do a Clear Lake video next week. Kind of depends on if we actually catch fish or not.
You will.
It's
We haven't been there in a while, and this is the time of the year that scares me. So
they've been hammering them up there though.
definitely has been some good weights coming from Clear Lake. Clear Lake is our next tournament.
There's a BAM tournament up there this weekend, right? The Pro-Am.
Yep. They're practicing. They start Friday.
Yep.
Oh,
Friday,
good.
Saturday, Sunday.
We'll be dodging out of their way and just, I guess,
Maybe looking to see where they're at.
did not know there was a tournament
That's
up
a
there.
good idea.
But leave them alone. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna,
No.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely not gonna go. Like if I go onto an area and stick a fish or two, and it looks like a good enough area that someone's probably gonna be fishing,
Yeah, I'm
probably
out.
just
Yeah.
leave it.
Yeah,
Um,
because those guys are spending a lot of money and they're up there
Yeah, they
trying
got-
to win a championship.
they
And
got way more stuff
Yeah.
important.
you got to be courteous on the water. And if, you know, it's, you know, I think on the most part, most people are, it's very unfortunate when somebody gets cut off and, or you'll pull up, you'll be up, they'll pull up and they'll even go, hey, are you guys fishing a tournament? Yeah, we're in a tournament. Oh, wow, how you doing? And then they just sit there and fish and they're fun fishing. The next thing you know, they catch a fish right in front of you and throwing it back and you're going, really?
With
you
that
know.
said, if you see us up there at Clear Lake and you're watching this video and we're on your spot, please feel free to come up and kick us off. I have
Yep.
absolutely zero problems with leaving at all. Just come up to us and say, hey, do you mind? I wouldn't mind. I'm in the tournament. No problem.
Yep.
Say hi. If you see us up there, say hi.
Yep.
All good. But yeah, that like I said, now knowing that, I don't know if we're gonna have enough fish catches because we're definitely gonna be leaving and moving around. So we may not have a video, but we will do a live. Not sure what topic we'll do, but we'll do a live a week from today,
All right.
and or at least I'm gonna do a live. I don't know. These guys are welcome to join in. But that's pretty much it for today. If you have any questions, ask them down below. If you have any suggestions of a live that you want to watch, definitely hit me up on Instagram or comment down below. And if you came in late to this, there was some good stuff back in the beginning of this. So you could always rewatch this. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think we did.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And I appreciate all the likes, comments, all that stuff. I can't reach the camera. And until next time, I hope you get them.